ear. It took a big chunk out of me.
Bleeding.
It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped my ear off. What do you think?
Welcome to another special edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast. Now, during this year, I've invited some of the biggest names in Rugby League to talk to me one-on-one about their incredible careers. This time, I'm delighted to say our special guest is the Welsh wizard himself, Jonathan Davies OBE, who joins us from his home in South Wales right now. Jonathan, first of all, thank you for taking time out to do this. We're gradually coming out of the COVID crisis, and I've asked all my guests this year at the start of these interviews, how have you coped over the past turbulent 15 months or so?
Yeah, I think it's been difficult for everyone, but, in relative terms, I live in a nice area. I've got a back garden. I did decide to put some gym stuff in the garage beforehand. So, yeah, it's been tough, but considering everything, all my family's, well, and, work has kind of kept on ticking over. My wife's been very busy. She, runs a couple of care homes. So that's been really at the cold face of it. So it's been, but overall, I've kind of adapted well and kind of enjoyed parts of it, to be honest.
Good on you. Well, as you say, if you've got a garden and you can get out, get a bit of fresh air, it's much better, I'm sure, than living in a tenement block, isn't it?
You can't think you compare it to a lot of people, and also I live about 500 yards from the coast. So when we were allowed to do these walks, the walks were great because we just went on the coastal walks, and they were beautiful.
Fantastic. As you say, your wife runs a couple of care homes. You told me earlier this week that you've had your 2 jabs. You help out there, I believe, so you'll know exactly what this pandemic has caused and what it might leave behind.
Oh, I think I've lived it for the last year with Jay, my wife, and just going to help out there, carrying stuff and everything. But also, I was planning when I met Jay. I was planning for the future. I've got a nice sea view room now down there when I'm getting a bit decrepit.
when you're sitting in the rocking chair, looking out and remembering,
Exactly. So no, it has been tough for everyone, and I hope that recovery will be as very quick for people.
Fingers crossed. Right, let's take you back right to the very, very start. You were born in Trimsaran, and you were introduced to Rugby League by your teacher at school. Did you have any inkling at that time that you were destined to go on and play the game to the level that you did?
No idea. You just started off in a little village, and rugby was the kind of the centre. Rugby club was the centre of the community, and my dad, played there and started the youth team off. So, like anybody else, I just went to watch on a Saturday, enjoyed playing all kinds of sport, really. And then, once Marion came, the school teacher, then we had a little bit more discipline and structure, and we played against other school sides every Friday. And he just taught us the core skills of it. So yeah, we didn't. It's like anyone else. I don't think you have any aspirations at all until you get to a certain age, and then people start recognizing, you've got a little bit of a talent. But then it's very difficult from where you come from, because I'm from a small village, and the district side we played for were only 3 schools. So when we played against the big city like Swansea and Cardiff and Bridgend and and Neath and Newport, we were always outgunned up front. So we didn't have much ball to play with. So it's very difficult to show your talents coming through.
I'm sure it was. But as you say, your dad played and captained Trimsaran. You must have been delighted and very proud to follow in his footsteps when you made the step up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was. It's a tough time when losing your dad. Well, he was ill when I was 12. He had cancer and had to go away for a long time having treatment in Cambridge Hospital, Addenbrooke's, and my mum. So it was very difficult times for me and my sisters living with my grandmother. And I didn't really at that time. Again, I was just enjoying myself playing rugby. But yeah, when unfortunately he passed away, there was a motivation for me to, to try and maybe, do something that you would be proud of me. And because the club was very good to me, I always thought that if I didn't make it, I would spend my time just playing and replicating my dad and hopefully trying to be captain of Tramsara Rugby Club. But things turned out differently.
They did. Did he actually see you get into the Welsh under-12s, Jonathan, in 74? No? Oh, what a shame.
I played West Wales against East Wales in Cardiff Arms Park, like a curtain raiser for Wales Tonga, which is odd because 14 years later, the prop that played that day for Tonga took me out in a late tackle out in Tonga 14 years later. So I don't know if I upset him when I was under 12. No, he did, unfortunately. He passed away when I was 14, hadn't achieved anything at that time. And to be honest, I didn't achieve it. I didn't play for any schools team or youth team for Wales at any level.
Oh, what a shame he didn't live to see all that you've achieved. But I'm sure looking down, he must be very, very proud of you and what you have achieved, what you've done.
Hopefully, my mum has been there through thick and thin with me, and just she was my rock. But hopefully, my dad will be proud.
I'm sure he will. You left school at 17, didn't you? You became an apprentice painter and decorator. Are you a dab hand? Can I hire you? Are you ready? Are you ready to come up?
No, I remember. It was odd because I lost a little bit of discipline when my dad died, and I fell out with the PE teacher in school. So I kind of gave up a little bit on school, and then so I left to work. And then I realised I wasn't a very good painter and decorator. One day I was doing a little job, and my mate couldn't kind of hang the wallpaper, couldn't get the pattern. It's because I'd pasted the wrong side of the anaglipta. So that's I needed to get a new job, to be honest. But it was one of those things that I left school. I've worked since I was 16, so I've just left and gone, and it was one of those things. I made a decision, and I just enjoyed life, worked hard, and trained and played rugby.
Well, if you pasted the wrong side of anaglipta, Jonathan, probably a good job you gave it away. But I must say, you and I are of the same tree. I've no idea when it comes to DIY.
DIY, I in lockdown, I've painted everything. If it doesn't move, I've painted it, right? So I've done a bit of it in the garden, but no, I wouldn't be doing anyone any jobs.
Right. Well, look, the big step, I suppose, came when you went for a trial with Neath. They said no, but Neath, they gave you another chance, and you signed for them as a fly half. Yeah,
just about it's perseverance. It is. I went to Neath for a trial. I thought I did well. I scored a couple of tries, and the next thing, I came. I didn't get selected, and I had a phone call out to the Blue for Neath. Then I was it. So I was in Tramsara Rugby Club on a Sunday night, and they said, "Oh, do you want to play on Tuesday?" So that was it. I didn't train with them. I didn't know any one of them. I just turned up. I took a half day off work, turned up, and the rest is kind of history. But I had an opportunity with Neath. There was a great team there: Brian Thomas, Glenn Ball, and Ron Waldron coaching setup. So it was very, very, good, and we played a nice style of rugby. But after 6 games, I tore my cruciate in my right knee. Oh. So I didn't play for 14 months then. But they had, they looked after me, and when they asked me, I had 1 game for, like a junior side. They said, "Look, are you fit?" I said, "Oh, I'm not sure." "Well, you're in," and they threw me straight in at the deep end. So it was a huge learning curve for me, but. I'm forever grateful for Neath because, they were the ones who gave me my first opportunity to play, at senior level. And unless you don't really know how good you are until you kind of go up against better players. And that was my opportunity.
Well, as you say, they treated you well. You treated them well because obviously you caught the eye at Neath and you were selected for Wales against England at the Arms Park, trying a drop goal and man of the match, I believe.
Yeah, it was one of those things. It's a huge setup, and you've just got to get used to it. And it took me, maybe 20 minutes to get into the game. I had a great Terry Holmes playing scrum half inside me, and but yeah, we just managed to kind of close out the game, and I just made a couple of right decisions. I had a very lucky try. I just kicked. I put a big up and under up. It was such a bad kick. I chased it, and unfortunately for the England fullback, he dropped it, and I jumped on it, and it was kind of a turning point in the game. So very, very enjoyable, and just to be a little Welsh lad growing up in a rugby community in West Wales, it was just I think the best moment of my career.
I'm sure that's a dream come true. And you were captain of Neath, but then how amazing that things suddenly turn around, because the next thing is you're transferred to Llanelli.
Yeah, it was odd because I was kind of put under pressure to sign for Neath, and I'm like I said, forever grateful for Neath, but I wanted to play for my home club, and the opportunity came up, and I just explained the situation, and off I went. So I'd had a couple of seasons in Llanelli, because they played a different style of rugby, which was kind of more fluid, I suppose, and more footballing with the forwards. The Neath boys are more robust and brilliant off the front foot. But yeah, it was. I just wanted to play for my hometown. Now, it was as simple as that. There was no problems leaving Neath at all. I just wanted to play for my hometown.
And you did, and you went on and played again, of course, for Wales many times. 37 Union caps, I think.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I can't remember how many I had, but
enough anyway. You had enough.
Yeah, so around that mark, Ed. Around that mark.
Okay. And you won the Triple Crown and went on the New Zealand tour, captained the side. They must have been great times as well. What are your memories of that tour?
Oh, the tour was very difficult. They were
always is against them, isn't it?
They was the best side in the world by a stretch. They just won the World Cup in '87, where we played in that. We came third in that, and that was a great achievement. But then going over there, they were kind of not. I wouldn't say they were professionals. They weren't getting paid for it, but they were like professionals, because they were looked after. If they trained, the companies would be reimbursed. So they were professionals, except for being paid, and they had fantastic players throughout. And it was tough touring it, but I learned so much from those defeats. And playing going to the regions. It was just great learning curve for me. Although I had heavy defeats, but I just wanted to outplay my opposite number every game, and I think I come back from there with my reputation intact, which a lot didn't, and that meant a lot to me.
I'm sure it did. But then Wales are beaten by Romania, and you're the man who gets blamed in the media. And I get the feeling, when I look back on this and read all the reports, this was the time when things started just to turn a little bit sour.
I never say it was sour, because I was privileged to play for the clubs and Wales. So I think when we came back from New Zealand, we understood the gap between North and South Hemisphere, and the reasons were not the ability of the players. It was the way they were looked after and the time they were going. They trained more than us, and they prepared better than us. And I thought that we were never ever going to close the gap until we had the same level. We were on the same playing level as them. So that was the one that really disgruntled me, because I thought unless we change the Northern Hemisphere, we will never compete or beat the Southern Hemisphere. But also then when we went when we played Romania, the knives were out, and I found I didn't have much support from the WIU at the time. And it wasn't sour. I just felt that where are we going? What we will never compete at at the highest level unless we were things change, and it didn't change, and I didn't know when they would change. So I was kind of, that's what disgruntled me. I had a small time in my playing career to achieve as much as I could, and to do that, I had to think of what was best for me and my family, and what gave me the better platform to show my skills off. So then, I really enjoyed playing for Llanelli. We were a great side at the time, and we could have gone on and, dominated Welsh rugby, maybe British rugby at that time. We were such a good side. But I always knew playing for Wales, which, was everything for me, that we would never, compete and beat the Southern Hemisphere. So it was that's what kind of disgruntled me more.
And of course, timing is of the essence. So at this point, step into your life two very unique characters, Jim Mills and Dougie Lawton. And suddenly Rugby League was beckoning.
Yeah, I'd always watched, I'd mentioned something I'd loved, because I played in Australia, and in 86, I think, I was playing a Sevens tournament over there, and I was lucky I scored a hat-trick, and I'd kind of played at the tournament on a hat-trick against New Zealand. We lost to Australia in semi-final, but I played quite well, and then all of a sudden the Australian kind of rugby league were, showing interest, and that's when I made my name in the Southern Hemisphere. So Dougie, I think, was very shrewd, because I know he picked up Emosi Koloto from watching Wellington versus Wales in 1988. So, he was a shrewd judge of a player, because Emosi was a great, great player. And then to see Martin O'Fire, scoring a hat-trick against Cardiff the Barbarians, he had a shrewd eye, and I was approached then by them. But I was approached by St Helens, Warrington and Leeds prior to that, and I felt that I wasn't ready. I don't think I was, maybe mature enough to to play the game of rugby league, but I'd never seen a rugby league game live. So I watched it floodlight the Lions on a Tuesday night, and I enjoyed what I saw. So that's when they planted the seed, and Dougie and Jim came down and did the sales job on me.
Good on them, and thank God that they did, and you weren't lost to us. But it was a real cloak and dagger business, this, wasn't it? Because in those days, if you're caught, you're gone, you're finished.
I can't play any sport. I can't. If I'm caught speaking to them, I was warned about soliciting myself, because I said something on an interview on a newspaper or magazine that maybe I'll try it. I had a warning. So it was just very difficult times, and even when they came down, we just locked ourselves in my lawyer's office in Swansea, and we thrashed the deal out. And they came. I said, look, we thrashed the deal out and said, this is the figure, this is the term. You promised me that. I said, I'll shake on it now, and I'll come back and sign tomorrow. And that's what I did. Once they came back with a figure about midnight that night, it was passed in the committee. I shook hands and I went back and signed the following day, and then pandemonium started.
I bet it did.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that big a story, but it was just an incredible, period, because the press, were all over the place, and the Welsh press were disappointed. Some made big stories; they were glad for me to go, but then going up to the Northwest, I think it was a bigger story. If I'd have failed, I think that's what they were waiting for. That for them, like another Southern rugby softie coming up. But I gave it my best shot.
Well, you didn't fail. There was no doubt about that. And as you say, in those days, if you were even seen talking to or hinting that you fancied your chance at rugby league, you couldn't play anything else. You were ostracised. What was the view of your pals at the time? Because they probably had an inkling you were having to think about it as well. What did your mates say? What did the supporters of the club say?
I think an inner circle of friends. I kind of discussed these things, and my family as well, and decided what was best for me. And it was immaterial what supporters thought. I think they were disappointed that I'd left, but then again, once I went up there, they wished me luck. So it was kind of my decision, a family decision, what was best for me and my family at the time. And it was as simple as that. It was being a part of a team. You can't be selfish, but sometimes you've got to make a decision which kind of benefits you long term with your family, and that's the reason. I did it. Really was the financial security for my family.
And nobody will blame you for that. I remember when you signed, and of course I was then and still am a big pal of David Watkins, and I likened your move, because when David came north, it was like George Best had come to the Rugby League from the Rugby Union. I likened your move as the most glamorous signing for Rugby League from Rugby Union since then. Did David speak to you at all? Did he offer any advice?
I did. I'm a good friends with Dave, and I didn't really know him that well because we played at different times. But I'd always come across him because he's an icon of the game in Wales and the icon of the game in the Northwest Rugby League. So I on the way up. After I'd signed, first time I travelled up north to face the music, I called in to see Dave in his house. I called in, had a cup of tea with David and Jane, and I just picked his brains. And that was invaluable for me as well. But it's different for everyone else. I think the only thing I needed was a bit of luck. I knew I was fit enough. I knew, I was good enough. I knew I was tough enough. I just needed a long run without any injuries, which I could really, do a crash course in it. And that's what happened. Dougie slowly, I played a couple of 18 games, and then I slowly came onto the wing. But all of a sudden, then I was picked to go on a Great Britain tour, and then I went to play in the Canterbury Bulldogs. So I had a real crash course in it, and I was very fortunate that I didn't have any injuries, so I had time to adapt. And also, I went to a good team, because if you go to a good team, the tough thing is breaking into that team. There was a world-class team with world-class players all over it. The first thing was to break into that team. And if I broke into that team and showed my ability, then I suppose the world was my oyster then.
Well, it definitely was, and I remember those 18 games. I think they believe at Widnes that they actually paid for your contract by the fact that they almost had to close the gate on the reserve team matches when you first walked out and made your debut.
It was packed. There was rumours about 4,000 to 5,000, in the reserve games. So they had a few of them, and I didn't play many away games at all. So yeah, so I think it was shrewd business.
It was, and I remember when David came north, he said that he had the only real introduction to the game was in the Stanleylands Hotel, and Griff Jenkins, the Salford coach, taught him in the lounge how to play the ball properly. What was your introduction to rugby league like? I fancy with Dougie and Jim and that world-class Widnes team a little bit more professional than that.
It wasn't really. It wasn't really. No, I just think, there you go, on you go. There's training, you know how to play the ball. Obviously, that's the big difference to rugby union. But it was just adapting to kind of different instincts, where you've had rugby union instincts. The players in a different position, and just But I was like a sponge. I just always asked questions in the change room. Always asked questions about my opposite number. And just, spoke to Dougie a lot and sat down and watched a lot of rugby league. So I was just kind of learning as I went along, really, and just absorbing everything. But again, with such great players, you had your kind of Martin was there. Then you had Tony Myler, then the Humes. Then you had boys like Derek Pike, established rugby league players, and then Kurt was Sorensen's end, and a footballing hooker like Phil McKenzie. Was it? So I just kind of absorbed everything and watched everything that they did, and hopefully could add something to that Widnes side.
Well, you added in spades. There is no question about that. And as you say, you got selected for Great Britain. You went to Australia, played for Canterbury Bankstown, the Bulldogs, of course, as they're now known today. Heady days, Jonathan. Heady days for you.
Yeah, again, you just, as if I'd had enough pressure, to try and beat come in and crack the British game. All of a sudden, I thought, why not go to,
back in Australia,
have another crack. So, I took the same abuse and the same kind of cheap shots in England and in Australia. So, there's nothing new to that. But you have to keep your head down and then keep on playing. So, but that was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed Australia. I was offered a 3-year contract with the Bulldogs. But I thought that would be a massive legal battle if that was the case, because I was still contracted to Widnes. I didn't want another kind of another couple of years of I don't know, kind of disharmony, I suppose. Just settle in one place and then see what happens. So I really enjoyed my time in Australia. I still to this day say that it's the toughest rugby competition I have ever played in, and I watch it regularly now. And the standard is absolutely ridiculous. But just to say that I've played in it and I've scored in it, and people remember me for being down there is a great feeling for me.
Great accolade. Of 14 games you played for Canterbury Bankstown, 100 points from full back. You didn't do bad.
No, that's a lot, because I think the top try scorer that year was Alan McAnally or someone like that on the wing for Illawarra, who had 14 and I had 9. So, I played half the season because Widnes had been successful. They wanted me out there earlier, but Widnes went to the Premiership, but the funny thing is, you're playing against, I think it might have been Hull in the Premiership on the Sunday. You jump on a plane on Tuesday, you arrive there on the Thursday, you train, and then I was playing Canberra, the champions, on the following Saturday. So there's no messing about, You're straight into it, and I'm playing against Mal Meninga, Laurie Daly, Bradley Clyde. I'm thinking, I didn't know what time zone I was in, let alone what city I was in.
It seems to me, Jonathan, you have been thrown at the deep end all the way through your career.
It is, but, it's...
Sink or swim.
It is a bit like that, but I enjoyed playing. I trained really hard. I was a good trainer. So I looked forward to playing. I don't understand a lot of the players now who say, oh, yeah, I don't want to play this weekend. It's interfering with my training. It's just, it is what it is. And you've got to, make the most of it. You've got to look after your body, obviously. But, when I finished, I knew my time was up and I had no regrets. I'd given everything. I couldn't give any more. And that's when I look back, I have no issues on, what I put into it and what I got out of it.
Definitely not. Then look, you then came up. I just want to talk to you about Widnes, because they've gone from riches to rags at the moment, and that saddens me deeply. It really does. I'm sure it must sadden you as well.
It does. I went down. Funny enough, this year, Kevin Ellis and myself went down to watch Widnes play against the West Wales Raiders. Rangi Chase and Gavin Henson was playing.
Yes.
And we're all going, oh yeah, we'll beat Widnes. And I'm thinking, just hang on a minute now. And then, they turned the intensity and they won by 50 odd points. And then, I looked at them and thought, okay, I won't judge them on that now. I'll watch them, see how they go. And then last week, they were beaten by 70 points against Toulouse, and I'm thinking, it's such a fall from grace. But unfortunately, like sport, it's all driven by money, And
it is.
If you haven't got the money, you can't buy the players. And if you can't get the players, you're not going to win games, and you go and drop down. So hopefully, with such a rugby league community and a good support base there, hopefully they'll bounce back as they did, a couple of years ago, go back into Super League. But, it's a tough way in now.
Maybe they need another raid into South Wales to get somebody like Jonathan Davis, Kevin Ellis, John Devereaux, Moriarty.
The problem you have now is, when I was very fortunate to play in a great rugby league side. I played in a great rugby union side, and I've really enjoyed, all the sides I played with. But with, the rugby league side, the difference now is there's a lot of players in Wales who are capable of going up to rugby league. But rugby union is paying far more, even at such a lower level. There's more money in union. So players aren't going to go and chance their arm and take a chance, because it'll take them out of their comfort zone. And why do that if they're getting paid more where they are?
You can't blame them for that, no. But it is a shame. It is a shame. And of course, around about this time, the Welsh national side in rugby league, well, it absolutely took off. I've mentioned Moriarty, Devereaux, Kevin Elliott, Roland Phillips. What a side you had then. I remember the Vetchfield. Was it against Papua New Guinea? And you had the game of your life. I remember it well.
I think everyone wanted, to get back and play, with each other. That was the first thing, because we were all over the Northwest. We just really enjoyed it. Like when we got together, we had a good time. We all partied to get to know each other. Then we had we had Kelvin Skerritt, Martin Hall, Neil Cowie, Anthony Sullivan. Not maybe Welsh boys, but they could have played for England. But they realised the fun that we had when we got together, and the passion that we had. And when we went back to playing against Papua New Guinea first, the pressure for all of us to go back there and to show our skills of what they'd lost, And that we really, really enjoyed it, every minute of it, on and off the field. You know, we beat England in Indian Park. We beat Papua New Guinea. We beat Samoa. People still talk about that Samoa game. You know, the atmosphere and the physicality of it.
Was that in the World Cup that year? Was that
it was
95 World Cup? You sold the Vetch out that night.
Oh, it was packed. You know, they had delayed kickoffs. You know, they had a great side, Samoa. You know, there was blood everywhere in the change room. And I remember the Swansea City football team apprentices were cleaning the change rooms after. I think they were in shock. They said it mashed. It was like, you know, there's blood and ice and snot and stitches everywhere. But that, you know, we sat there and drank, you know, bottles of beer together, and you know, it was just that's what, you know, memories are made of, and nights like that, and playing with your mates, and you know, we still see each other. You know, the boys, now that everyone's retired, and they are fun memories, Eddie. They're brilliant times.
Oh, they were. I mean, even for those of us on the outside looking in, you could tell it was like a club side playing for the national team, wasn't it? It really was. In fact, it was probably deeper than that.
I think it was because, you know, everyone had left home, and you know, Bish had gone to Hull KR, Kevin had gone to Warrington, then we had Iestyn, born and bred in Oldham. You know, Di Young had gone to Leeds. So we were all spread all over the Northwest, and we didn't see each other because a lot of us worked as well as played rugby league. So we didn't spend time together to sort of catch up and see each other. And also all the wives, you know, came back and saw and watched the game. So they kind of, you know, got the chatting again. It was just a brilliant time for us, you know. And like I said, we enjoyed every moment of it.
I bet you did. We've mentioned Widnes struggling financially. So Warrington came and they signed you. I remember we were almost neighbours in the Westbrook area of Warrington. Yeah. You were around the corner from me. You were playing for Widnes, living in Warrington.
I was.
Good days, happy days.
You know,
what was it like? What was it like at Warrington?
Well, but it was odd because, you know, I'd never thought that I'd go to another club. And especially something like Warrington, you know, arch rivals. But I looked at it, and I remember Jim Mills said to me, right, you know, I need to speak to you. I said, right, we can't afford you. We've got to go. Oh, thanks, Jim. Thanks for that. So I then told him, okay. So, you know, I spoke to Castleford, and Wigan had a little, you know, John Morney mentioned something, and then Wakefield with Dave Topless. I want to meet the great Dave Topless in Wakefield. But then I thought, you know, my kids were in the school. I lived in Warrington. I'd actually moved to Widnes.
Yeah.
But no, then all of a sudden, you know, it seemed a better fit for me. And, you know, Alan Bateman was there, Roland was there, and Kevin Ellis was there. So I thought, look, you know, there wouldn't be any disruption to family life. I could just nip over training, and let's see how I could improve Warrington. And I went there, and all of a sudden the whole place lifted. You know, I enjoyed playing there, and we played way above, you know, our station that year. You know, if we'd have had a couple of other players to carry us through, we might have won the championship. It would have been a little bit like Leicester City-esque, mind. Yeah. Because, you know, we were up against Wigan and Bradford, but yeah, I just think we run out of steam a little bit. We didn't beat, you know, Wigan. We had a draw with Wigan, which needed a win, but we pushed everyone hard that year, and I think we overperformed on that season, and I really, really enjoyed my time there. Having come. Expectations were different in Widnes. Widnes were a great side, and people expect us to win things, which we did. Going to Warrington, maybe they were just middle of the table, and you know, all of a sudden we nearly won the championship, and there was no Premiership then as well, so we could have been in the Premiership playoff, and we could have given it a go there. You
could have done, and people in Warrington, believe me, still fondly remember the time that you were at the Warrington club.
Yeah, I did. It was a great, you know, it was odd because, you know, I thought I was going to retire, to be honest, because my knee was aching a little bit, but just give me that little bit of injection, and I scored a try in Wembley when I was with Warrington, and then all of a sudden I had another season to go to North Queensland, and it just gave me a little, of a lift up, to be honest.
I bet it did.
I go places. That's right. If you go places and people buy you, you have to kind of perform. I think that's the thing I've always tried to do. I always thought, right, if people are putting, their money where their mouth and confident and putting their confidence in me, I've got to show them that I'll do everything that I can to perform. And I think I hopefully the Warrington fans enjoyed it, and because I scored some lovely tries there, scored some lovely tries in Widnes, and I thoroughly enjoyed the two towns are great towns, and they're both great rugby league clubs, and I was very fortunate to play for both of them.
You touched on the try you scored for Great Britain at Wembley against the Kangaroos. You swept past Brett Mullins for a fantastic try in the corner, but in the process, you dislocated your shoulder, and that was your Ashes series gone. We could have won the Ashes that year, Jonathan.
It was odd, coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's all. People say, the biggest word in English dictionary is if. If I'd done this, if I'd done that. But I just feel when I played against Australia, I never, not growing up and watching the great green and gold, I wasn't scared of them. So when I played against them, I felt it as a challenge. So when I played against Australia for Widnes, I scored again, so, and then when I played in Australia, I scored against Australians. So when I came up against them, I felt it a real challenge, and, because you want to play against the best, and they were the best. So I really enjoyed my battles against them. And I was always confident of scoring against them. And that particular year, 94, we had a great... Tactically, Ellery was brilliant in the first game. But unfortunately, doing the tackle, Barry Mack fell on me accidentally. And, I hurt my clavicle joint. I was out for 10 weeks. And that's one regret I have in rugby league, is the fact that because I was enjoying my career and I felt I was a little bit in the zone playing for Warrington, and things would happen when I had the ball, I always felt that I could score against them. And I would have loved to have played in the second and third match of that series, because I felt, I would have been a threat to them. And that's the one regret, that I got injured and I didn't have the opportunity to play in the rest of that series, because I hadn't had the opportunity to play in previous ones. I played in New Zealand, scored in New Zealand as well for the Lions, the Rugby League Lions down there. We won the series 2-1, which was brilliant. So I really enjoyed the international stage of rugby league.
Yeah, they were great days, heady days.
They were brilliant days.
They were. And, it's funny you say that's your big regret. When I hung the microphone up a couple of years ago, one of the things I said was probably my biggest regret was never having been able to call an Ashes winning series, because that's the ultimate, isn't it? I know the World Cup's on its way and it's going to be massive if England can win that, but to win an Ashes series for Great Britain, to me, that seems to be the pinnacle.
Yeah,
we've not done it for years.
It's something they are a great side, and it takes a great effort to do it, right? And when you watch them, the quality that comes through with them, it's amazing. So it's a big ask, but they've had opportunities. So I've been very fortunate, to beat Australia in Wembley, to beat New Zealand in Wembley, to win a series against New Zealand, home and away in rugby league. Score tries against New Zealand Rugby Union, and then that's one of those things. Rugby Union, nobody in Wales has beaten the All Blacks for 60 years, and then unfortunately we haven't beaten Australian Rugby Union and Rugby League.
No, we haven't. But listen, we're going to talk about in a moment about the great switch that you had, and it was a great switch from Union to League, but then from the shop floor to the commentary box. That's coming up. But can I just run back and just think about the game in Wales? You boys, during your time, you had such a great influence on rugby league in Wales. The international scene took off when you were there. Why we have never in rugby league been able to take Wales? Why can we never get a club side to thrive in Wales? Any ideas?
I think it has to be a leap of faith by the league, rugby league. I think you have to say, right, we have to put a franchise in there, and you have to put a few good rugby league players in there, and then maybe you can pick, cherry pick a couple of the union boys. No, I don't think there's the opportunity now because the game is professional down here, but it all comes down to money. But they had a chance maybe in 95 to do it. We could have had a little bit like Catalan Dragons are now, I suppose. But I don't know. It seems like a missed opportunity, back in the early 90s.
Definitely, and beyond that. I mean,
because Brian Noble tells me all the time. I think Wales rugby players are kind of better suited to the league than they are rugby union, because we're not the biggest nation in the world, but we're a skillful nation, and a lot of them would adapt and and make a career of it. But unfortunately, why would you leave your comfort zone of playing rugby union, the game to put yourself under pressure when there's no need to financially?
Well, maybe they should talk to you and David Watkins, and you would.
Maybe. But we weren't paid back at all. That's the reason.
You can say that now. I know that the tongue is very firmly in the cheek there, Jonathan. Yeah. Definitely. Look,
it was. I have no regrets of my whole career. And I've been very fortunate to play, both codes, and I thoroughly enjoyed both.
Well, we've been fortunate to watch you. You retired finally the end of 96, 97. And so the story goes, when you were on Question of Sport, you were asked what the biggest challenge was going back to rugby union, because you left rugby league, went back to Cardiff to play union for family reasons. And you said the biggest challenge playing rugby union was you've been feeling cold for the first time in 7 years. You never felt cold when you played rugby league?
No, never. Well, I don't know. I played in Hull KR once. It was bloody freezing. So
God, it is cold up there.
Yeah, I think Martin the Fire went off with hypothermia at half time. So that's how cold it was. But I think it was because I played. I think they came back and I played full back for a while and all that. And again, you just, because of the set piece, it is a little bit slower pace, in rugby union. I just said it tongue in cheek, and that was it. But no, I came back because I wanted family reasons. My wife wasn't very well, so I came back and to have the family support around me. And I didn't really think I was going to play much rugby union, but I just wanted to come back and end my career on a high note and play for Cardiff and give everything to Cardiff. And, we went to the European Cup final. We won the Welsh Cup. We had a great time. And I played a couple of games for Wales because I didn't want to play. But if Wales come calling, you got to say yes, So, but I was a lot slower than I was when I went up there. But I could call time on my career when I wanted to. And that's what happened. They want me to play for another year. But I kind of trying to plan things, and I've always worked through my career, always worked rugby, and kept my rugby union and rugby league as my hobby. Wow. I always wanted to be a hobby, and a hobby that I would always enjoy. And I think by working and keeping in the real world, I could achieve that and appreciate the privileged life that a top end sportsman had. So. I planned at the end of my career, and all of a sudden I was given an opportunity with the BBC with Brian Bowick.
Indeed so. I mean, throughout your life, it seems like you've been dipped in gold. You've enjoyed it wherever you've played. You've won things wherever you've played. Is it a fair question to ask you this? Which is the better game?
I don't think you can. I don't think you can compare them. They're so different, and the way I do it, the way I look at it, is it's like snooker and pool. So on the eye, for the general sports people, they look very similar, but the rules are totally different. The number of balls are totally different. So that's how I can try and explain it. So. And to play, maybe at my time, rugby league suited my game because I wasn't. I was on the front foot, with people like Tony Myler and Mossy and Kurt Sosa. So it gave me the opportunity to attack on a one-on-one basis. Whereas in Wales, when I played for Wales, maybe we were slightly on the back foot because our pack sometimes got beat up. So it's very difficult to kind of compare games because they're so different. I was very lucky that, to play an international rugby union at the highest level, it's fantastic. But then, club rugby in rugby league week in, week out is of a higher standard, and I thoroughly enjoyed the challenges. So, but then walking out in Wembley in the old stadium where you walk 100 yards next door to someone like Brett Mullins, who's like a foot taller than me, that's an amazing experience. I don't think you can compare them to say which is the better game. That's the real answer. Which one did I enjoy most? That's another one. It's such a tough question to say because I thoroughly enjoyed both because I adapted to both.
You adapted to both. You played well in both. You won international caps in both, as we've already said. Right, so the playing career is over. And I always say, if you can't play, and I never could play anything, by the way, but if you can't play, the best thing after that is to talk about it or write about it. Yeah. And as you say, Brian Barwick, another good Scouser, by the way, Brian.
Yeah,
he gave you the call, and you ended up in the commentary box at the BBC alongside Frenchie.
I did. It was because it's been odd because all of a sudden, I'm doing rugby union and rugby league, but sometimes I would do them on the same day, and I was really tough because the rules and the laws are so different. You'd have to take one hat off and put another hat on, but. Again, I never envisaged that, having played both, that I would then step into the commentary point and work, to say that I've kind of, worked with Bill McLaren, Steve Ryder, Ray French, John Inverdale and these boys, has been brilliant for me, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And what it did as well, because of all the rugby league boys, defensive coaches that came to the union, it kind of really improve my knowledge of the defensive systems and structures that they had. So I felt I could commentate and give more insight on the rugby union because of my rugby league experience. So, it's playing is nothing touches it. But I've been lucky to commentate on on both codes and commentate on great games with great people.
You have, and you mentioned the glitterati of the commentators there. You missed one out. You worked with me. You worked with me a number of times.
You didn't want me. If Skyder wanted me, I might have stayed up in the northwest. But
you can blame Stevo then for that. I
don't know who it was. But no, we worked, a few times together, Eddie, and it was great. When I was playing, the one thing I always did, I never ever, shirked an interview. Whether you win or lose, I just feel you have the responsibility to front up, because professional players got to realize where the income comes from.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, irrespective of how bad you've been or how well you've won, you've got to front up and face those cameras and ask the question. And, be polite, because there's nothing worse than, as you know, Ed, asking a guy who's just been beaten up and lost, and last thing he wants to do is to speak to an interviewer. And I think you just got to have respect, say the truth, keep your credibility, and then move on to the next game.
Correct, absolutely right. And you're not only a co-commentator, you also have an S4C show called Jonathan in the Welsh language. So you're fluent in Welsh as well.
Yeah, I've been doing it for 17 years now, and I'm doing it with, a couple of, like, when you look at the one show with Alex Jones.
Yes.
They nicked her off me. She was working with me, then they nicked her and put her on that show. Never had an invoice or any money for that, to be honest. But Nigel Owens, the international referee, he also came out on that show as well because he works with me on it. So yeah, it's been very interesting, and it's been a miracle that we're still doing it. So it's still going on now.
17 years. That's a great record. That really is. Well done for that. Well done. I mean, that is good. Do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy that side of it now? Because you're obviously very at ease in front of the mic.
I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it very much so, because it's different. I would never thought that I'd be doing what I'm doing now. I'm like a a council house boy from Trimsaran, born in my grandmother's front room. And all of a sudden, I've travelled the world, mostly in economy, but, with rugby. But now I'm on television doing stuff that I would never ever thought that I would be doing. So I've just I've been very fortunate, and because I am doing it, you try and enjoy it, because if you enjoy it, I think it's and enjoy and work with people that you enjoy being with, and I've been lucky to do that.
You have, and I mean, you talk about being a boy from a council house in Trimsaran, MBE 1997, OBE 2015 for all your work with charity. Yeah. I mean, many congratulations on those 2 awards. You obviously do a lot that we don't hear about all the time.
Yeah, I try and help. I've been the president of a Velindre Cancer Care now for, I think it's 13 or 14 years. And there's tough times for every charity over the last 12 months, because they can't get out there and fundraise. But we've done things online, and I've tried to raise the awareness. And I think in 13 years, we've raised over 35 million. There's a new hospital being built now in Cardiff, a new Velindre hospital. So, yeah, I'm quite proud of those achievements, especially, having, been touched by cancer in my family in the past. So it's nice to give something back. So, it's variety is the spice of life, Ed, I think.
Isn't it just? Look, I know you're clocking on. You're not as old as I am, but you're clocking on. What will your legacy be, do you think, when people look back on Jonathan Davies OBE career? What do you think they'll remember you most for?
I think, with social media, and tries pop up now and again on social media, and people go, God almighty, he could play, couldn't he? And I think that I've always wanted to, I've always seen rugby as a stage and to perform, and people are paying. If I can do something that gets people off their seats, what I want to, people can say when I'm pushing daisies up, people can, and then my name comes up and said, I remember I was there when he scored that try. I remember when he was there when he scored that try. So that would be nice to leave some, fond memories. The cancer thing is very important to me. I can leave some kind of legacy there. The hospital has been built now that I've helped, hopefully a lot of people are suffering from cancer. That's one thing. But ultimately, my dad, when he passed away, one thing he said, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And if I can, people can say, oh, he was a tidy bloke, he was, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, well, I can say you're a tidy bloke and you're a really, really good lad. And it's been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to talk to you today. Long may it continue. Stevo thinks you're a brilliant commentator, by the way. So look, I don't know whether you take that as a compliment or an insult.
I will take it as a compliment, because it's like it's like, Ed, opinions are like arseholes, right? And everyone's got one. So you can be 50% will love you, 50% will hate you, right? And that's what I'm trying to do, is introduce them to each other. To be bluntly honest, I couldn't give a as long as we keep our credibility and say what we really believe in, and we enlighten people on some things that happen on the field. Your role is different, to my role. You say what you see, and when there's it's your kind of information and research that keeps it going, and then we say, and you say what is happening, and we would then say why it's happening, and that's why the partnership, like you and Steve, will work so well.
Absolutely, Jonathan. As I say, pleasure, privilege. Always good to talk to you. We might tee it up one of these days, eh? Again,
we might tee it up. When I'm up there now, when we're back doing the rugby league, and it's double headers on the weekends. You have to stay overnight. I do enjoy my trips up north. Meet up and have a couple of pints with the boys in the game of golf. So anytime, Ed, anytime. You could get me at a good time now, because all my mates are queuing up to play me, because I've been slashed. My handicap has been slashed. So all my mates are take money off me. And but I do tell them always, when I was in North Queensland, I played against a guy in golf, and his handicap was 19, and he was blind. So anyone above 19, I tell them that story all the time.
Well, you're talking to someone with a handicap of more than 19, so you better bring some money with you when you come up to the Royal Warrington.
It'd be a pleasure, Ed. It'd be a pleasure, because when I, you couldn't really get stuck into any other sport while you were, still in the middle of your rugby career. But I played Warrington a couple of times and hacked it around there, and Walton Hall and Widnes Golf Club, and great courses around the northwest. So it would be nice to come back and hopefully enjoy the courses a bit more, not hack around.
Well, rest assured, the course is in great nick. We have sorted out all the divots that you left all those years ago. It's in good shape. It's in good shape. And so are you. Jonathan, as I say, thank you so much for your time. A privilege to talk to you, and long may you continue. All the very best.
Eddie, pleasure, mate. Always great to talk to you. Take care.